Welcome back, everybody. This is Wild Digital C Conference 2021, and we're now going into session 9, which is Aggregators, the next wave of e-commerce and exit for brands. With some strategic acquisitions, APAC's very own Una Brands is an e-commerce aggregator that is quickly becoming a conglomerate in the online marketplace, bringing promising brands together under one common umbrella to prove that the sum can indeed be greater than its parts. Keep an eye on that umbrella because Una Brands is poised to take the world by storm. And to speak about it, here are our speakers, Kiren, Tanna, founder and CEO of Una Brands, Vishal Harnal, moderator from managing partner of 500 Global. Gentlemen, the floor is all yours.
Thanks very much. Kiren, it's so good to see you. I was just recalling when I was preparing for our conversation together, how we met. I think it was at the start of the year or last year when you were at my poolside and we were jamming about the future of e-commerce aggregators. 5 months later, you closed the seed round, and 5 months after that, you've now closed a $15 million Series A. How are you feeling about that?
No, feeling incredible, and it's been only a year, but it feels like a long time. And thanks for the support, right? And 500 has been great partners on this journey, and I'm actually incredibly proud of what the team has been able to achieve in such a short time. When we closed our seed round back in May, we wanted to prove that the business model works in this part of the world, and that we can acquire, find, and grow great brands in this part of the world. I'm very glad that we've been able to validate that and attract some very good investors to come and join us on this journey. But in my opinion, it's only day one.
Yeah, it is. It's early days, still growing. And, it's interesting. It's like, it's not just happening over here in Southeast Asia. It's happening all across the world, right? Like Thrasio just raised $1 billion, which is the US version of this model. And Berlin Brands Group, I think, now is valued at $1 billion that's doing it across Europe. So for our audience members that may not be familiar with the concept of e-commerce aggregators, maybe give a quick overview of what they are and what Una Brands does.
Sure. So what we do is we acquire great, profitable, digitally native brands, which are based in APAC region. And we acquire 100% of these brands, right? So we acquire them outright. We provide an exit option or a liquidity event for the seller who's spent a few years to grow the brand where it is. And then once we acquire the brand, loved enduring brands. And this is our mission, is to find such great brands, build those capabilities to be able to take them to the next level.
So for example, if I'm like an Amazon seller and I'm selling umbrellas on Amazon, and I'm doing maybe $500,000 a year in sales, but I can't scale or grow the business. That's where Una Brands comes in, and you buy out my business.
Yes. So once you are a seller who's selling at that level, now whether it's Amazon, whether it's Shopee, Lazada, Shopify, we don't really care about the platforms. We acquire across platforms. But once you reach that scale, the business you've grown using a certain size, certain operations that you've been able to grow. At some point of time, you hit that ceiling. You have to start making tough choices. Should I give up my job and do this full time? Do I need to hire more people? How do I grow it in multiple countries? You don't have that capability, or you don't have that resources to make that happen. And so but the problem is, once you've grown the
brand,
energy,
you might be tired from growing the business for a number of years, so you don't have the energy to even take it forward, right?
Exactly. You don't have the energy, and you can't shut the business down, right? Because it's making you money. So that's where we come in. We say, hey, let me acquire 100% of the business. It's a nice large cash out for you right now. And then I take the business to the next level. You get to share in the upside as well. And you take the cash and either you go on a holiday on a yacht or do a new business. And so it's a great option for the sellers as well.
I wouldn't mind being on a yacht right now, but it's like almost like micro PE for brands that are on platforms like this, right? You buy them out, you enjoy economies of scale, use technology and debt to really get that to happen and make something more powerful out of the whole, as we heard in the introduction.
Exactly, and that's what we do, and the opportunity is large, right? So we believe there's a 20 billion addressable market for us in APAC, 100 billion globally, and Thrasio and some of the others have focused on Amazon and shown that in the West, but we are seeing more and more regional marketplaces come up in Latin America, India, and in APAC, where we are leading player in this space here in this region.
How many sellers are there on these platforms, for example, in Southeast Asia, our markets?
if you take Southeast Asia, even by conservative estimates, there are more than 10 million independent sellers who are selling on marketplaces. Many of them are small and growing, but the region is growing very fast, right? So the small sellers of today will be the large sellers of tomorrow. On top of that, you have over 1 million Amazon sellers which are based in APAC region, many of them in China as well, which are doing more than 1 million revenue as well. So the opportunity is huge, both on Amazon and on local marketplaces, and that's what we are tapping into.
You know, like many a times when we see like models in other markets, the ones that are successful in other parts of the world, like Southeast Asia, have a very unique flavor or aspect on how they do business or approach the model. What are you doing with Una to sort of like set it apart from the crowd, whether it is global competition or regional competition?
Yeah, so when we set out to build this business, we said, hey, we're going to build this out of APAC. And so I think we focus on the APAC market. And by definition, focusing on APAC means we have to be multi-channel. We cannot only do Amazon brands acquisition. So we are acquiring brands, and more than 50% of our portfolio are Shopify, Shopee, Lazada brands versus only Amazon brands. That's very unique about us. No one else in this region, at least, is doing it that way.
What's the advantage to doing that, to not being more Amazon focused for you as a business?
First of all, I think just having one platform, a brand will never achieve its full potential by selling only on one platform. The brand needs to be able to reach the customer in whichever way it has to. Yes. And if you're present in APAC, actually Amazon is only a small part of a brand's strategy. Shopify, Shopee, Lazada, Tokopedia, Coupang, Rakuten, these are more relevant platforms for brands built in this part of the world. Yeah. But at the same time, doing multi-channel also means more complexity in terms of operations and growth. So we have to work much harder. And for example, we've done now counting 3 or 4 warehouse moves where we take over sellers' fulfillment, move it to our professional partners doing 3PL, move from Perth to Sydney, entire warehouse from a garage to professional 3PL. So tough job doing multi-channel. We also build the tech to be able to manage brands across channels, but we like to do the tough work because that puts us in a good stead and differentiates us, and we can do certain deals which no one else can.
So basically, like one of the big differences is, for example, in the US market, most selling is taking predominantly through a platform like Amazon, but over here, it's a lot more fragmented, right? Consumers are buying across multiple platforms. And so being able to appeal or address them or sell to them through the channels they're most comfortable with, and then build brands in those categories is one of the competitive advantages. It is,
and the ability to find, acquire, and grow is across channels is not easy. And that's the unique capability that we've already built. We've today acquired 17 brands already, and we are acquiring at a rate of 3 to 4 a month. And we are managing all of these brands using our close to 100 people team now. And these are very unique capabilities that we've built over a period of time, and a lot more to come.
What are some of these brands? I'm so curious to know. Can you talk about any of them or share a little bit about the categories and brands that you care about?
So one great example which comes to mind is what we have announced a few weeks back is a company called Bellafort, which is started by a 13-year-old who started as a side job along with his school work. He was starting to build an Amazon brand under the guidance of his dad and mom, Sam Richards, and he built Bellafort, which is a glassware but unbreakable glassware made of Triton. He built this over a period of 3 to 4 years, grew it into a very large brand, and we recently announced the acquisition of his company and that makes him a millionaire. So great story of a 15-year-old, 13-year-old when he started, 15-year-old plus today, focusing on his studies, getting his A levels done.
My God. Do you remember what you were doing when you were 13? I was most certainly not building companies when I was 13. Look at this guy. And it's not even like he's playing, it's not even the NFT crypto Axie Infinity universe. He built a proper brick and mortar company selling glass.
Exactly.
And brings me to like maybe the next question is like, how are you discovering these people? How are you discovering these brands? Or how are you even determining what categories you want to go into? I'm sure people are curious about that.
No, so we believe in having local teams and meeting up with the sellers locally, and that's part of our outbound efforts, right? So unlike many other brokerage-led companies, we focus on sourcing our own deals, finding which are these entrepreneurs who build good brands on different marketplaces, reaching out to them, explaining them what we do, really try to understand their business. I think that sets us apart. We do a lot of groundwork trying to understand how the business is working, what strengths and weaknesses they have, how can we take it to the next level, and then use our teams on the ground. We have teams today doing acquisitions effort in 7 countries. Meet up with these sellers and explain, get that process rolling, and that we build that trust. I think that really sets us apart. More than half of our deals have come through outbound, and increasingly, as people know more about us, they refer us to other friends of theirs who also have businesses. We also get a lot of inbound inquiries for us to evaluate their business for a buyout.
I guess as more sellers are getting familiar with this model, it's almost like their path to liquidity and their exit, just like startups have their own path to liquidity and exits. For smaller companies, this is what they have something to look forward to.
And this never existed in the APAC region, right? It's been common practice for Amazon brands for maybe 5 to 10 years now in various capacity, but no one's been doing this for APAC. When we tell sellers that, hey, this is an option, saying, hey, you can sell your business and do something else with that cash, right? And that's an eye-opener. It's like, hey, this is, I've been really trying to scale my business. It's taking up a lot of my time. And maybe this is the right option for me. And it comes as a big relief on the faces of many of the sellers that when they hear about this option.
I can understand that. And I think as Southeast Asia, as more and more people in the region, start smaller businesses, finding paths to liquidity for them is going to become more important. Maybe we can shift a few gears and talk about some of the challenges that you're facing. So one of the questions that's been on my mind is that I know that as more and more options come in the region, right? Not only from global players, but also from folks that may be operating, they're looking at Una brand success and saying, hey, I'm going to build an aggregator as well, right? And start hunting for these companies. Are valuations rising? How do you compete with those bidding dynamics, for sellers that are looking to sell their businesses on in categories? How are you distinguishing yourself from the competition?
So it is true that there's a lot of players which have come up in the last 1 to 2 years, which are looking to do this business model globally, right? And so we actually see it split into 2 categories. So the Amazon assets, the brands which are selling on Amazon, primarily to the US market, you're seeing actually increased competition over there. Multiples have been rising. But on the other hand, if you look at the businesses which are selling primarily in Singapore, Australia, Malaysia, Indonesia, Taiwan, these kind of regions, you have much less competition because they're selling on multiple channels. And so for us, I think focusing on this multi-channel strategy is also means much less competition, being able to work very closely with the brands, and giving them that option. On the Amazon side, what we play on is our ability to connect with the sellers which are based in this region, meet them in person, explain to them what we do, and build that trust, understand their business very deeply, and also show a path on how their brand will grow, especially in the APAC region where they are based.
Yeah.
So that really has struck a chord with many of them. We've actually acquired, despite not being the highest bidder for many brands, we've been able to acquire them. That's on Amazon. On multi-channel, actually, it's a tough job to do, right? That's also part of the challenges. As I was mentioning, when you take over a brand, how do you manage sales on 10 different channels? We do it through technology, and we do it through aggregating data from all these channels.
And most people don't have access to that, right? They can't do it on an individual seller basis.
Exactly. Individual seller, if you meet any one of them, they have 10 Chrome tabs open, and half of them are crashing, and they're trying to answer questions from different customers on different tabs. For example, I'll give you a very good example. One of the sellers that we've acquired the business from in Singapore, they were fulfilling the products out of their own 2,500 square feet room that they had. They rented that out, and they were packing over 200 items every day themselves. And then we came in, we got that entire process professionalized with our 3PL partners. From 80-day same-day fulfillment, we were able to take them to 95% same-day fulfillment. And as a result, that seller is now, they were upgraded on Shopee and Lazada to Shopee Mall and Lazada Mall status, just because they've been operating metrics have gone up so much. So that's the tough part we do. which then sets us very, very distinctly apart in this region.
I guess you require something quite different to be able to scale businesses once they've grown to a certain size, and that's one of the value that you provide to these sellers, right? Just let me take this and scale this for you.
No, exactly, and part of that is also our presence across the region. As I said, we have offices in 7 regions, and so 7 cities, which means that we are able to take a brand from Singapore, get it expanded into Malaysia, into Australia, vice versa, taking an Aussie brand and putting them in the US marketplaces or putting them in European places. That's very unique to what we do. And we're able to do this because having team on the ground in these places, plus the technology to be able to manage a lot of this activity.
I don't know what the weather is like for the rest of our viewers, but right here in Singapore right now, Kiren, I don't know if you're experiencing it. There's a raging thunderstorm happening outside.
Exactly.
I think you can hear the lightning and the thunder. Maybe another question I had about the the challenges is that I know models like this rely quite heavily on debt because it makes little sense to use equity to fuel the acquisition. So you really want to be able to leverage on cheaper capital to be able to buy these businesses. In the US and in Europe, perhaps in more established markets, access to debt might be easier. What's it like for you in Southeast Asia?
Well, this business model, that's why it's been so attractive globally, right? Because of the ability to use leverage and debt to prevent dilution on the equity side, and that's why many of the best have turned unicorns within a year or two. And so that's what we focus on as well. The reason for us being able to get high amounts of leverage as well in this region is because we only acquire profitable brands. So the brands that we acquire, on an average, our portfolio has 26% EBITDA when we acquire it, and then over time we actually grow that EBITDA even further and deleverage the portfolio through growth as well. And that's the reason we've been able to tap into the high amount of debt funding which is available for this business model globally, and very fortunate to have Claret Capital, which has been our debt service provider since our inception, and recently we extended the facility with them as well, and even more fuel to buy great brands in the region.
I guess the fact that this model has been done in other markets and has been fueled successfully by debt, and adding that to the fact that the nature of the businesses that you're acquiring are profitable companies makes it easier to loan to you, right? Like for debt providers to actually, if they understand it, if they get it, so they'll be more willing to do that.
It's funny you mentioned micro PE. That's exactly how it is, right? It's a leveraged buyout of a micro brand which is profitable. Then our job is to grow it 5 to 10x right in the next few years. So that's and I've spoken to some PE funds. They say you guys have a superpower to be able to acquire these brands for 3 to 5x. Versus we pay much more for all these consumer brands that we acquire, and so that's the beauty of being able to do this at this scale and at this small micro brand level.
So when people ask you what you do, you say I do leverage buyouts.
Leverage buyout, but I do 3 to 4 a month.
Incredible. Is that the pace at which you're doing it right now? 3 to 4 businesses a month.
As we speak, we are closing 3 to 4 brands a month. We evaluate about 20 to 25 brands every week. We have a daily investment committee where we are presented anywhere from 2 to 7 or 8 brands every day, and then we say, hey, let's evaluate this brand in more detail. Let's bid on this brand, and this is the valuation for this brand. So,
Kiren, that sounds like early stage investing.
Sorry,
that sounds like early stage investing.
It is. It is very similar. So our structures are very similar to VCs in that sense.
Maybe one of the things that we can share with our viewers is what's the big vision? Like, what do you want to build this into in the future? So we know that Thrasio has achieved tremendous scale, but what's your unique vision for Una Brands, and what's the path to getting there?
Sure. So our mission is we are very clear on our mission, which is to shape the future of e-commerce by acquiring great brands and then growing them into global, well-loved and enduring household names. And once we're able to do that, we see ourselves as the Unilever or P&G, but for digital-first brands, and uniquely built out of APAC. So that's the broad vision we've set for ourselves. And acquiring brands, I would say, is just step one. It's a go-to-market strategy for us to build scale, relationships, data very quickly. And on the base of this, our aim is to even launch our own brands at some point of time, or extend brands that we acquire into new categories. We want to be the best place to nurture and grow brands in the region. So if you want to build digital first brands, Una Brands has the unique growth and distribution capabilities, unique operating capabilities, a great team that is able to take a brand which is doing 1 or 2 million revenue all the way to 50 to 100 million revenue. And that's what we aim to build. That's the big vision.
A tech-enabled Unilever of the future that is able to, help more and more people create resilient brands.
Exactly, and make it into there's an art to creating brands, and there's a science to creating brands, and how can we marry the two? I think that's the challenge for us.
What do you feel are the some of the categories or some of the areas that excite you right now? Without giving too much away, like what are you getting excited about?
So we are acquiring brands in the 1 to maybe even speaking to some brands which are doing 30, 40 million revenue. So a very broad range of brands. Some categories that we focused on are home and living, babies and pets, a lot of action happening in those, sports and outdoors, and personal care and wellness. So these bulk of our brands fall in these categories. We don't do any fast fashion, but that's something that we are exploring now. We are also looking at electronics brands, which we have not done so far. So very broad-based mandate, and then diving deep into certain categories and gaining some expertise on the supply chain side. We have a team in China which is doing procurement, supply chain, logistics work for us.
Yes.
How can we do that across a portfolio of 30 to 40 brands? That's the challenge that we are trying to solve now.
It's incredible. I mean, maybe for some of our, for folks that are looking at building e-commerce or building online shops on a variety of these e-commerce platforms, you now know that you've got to come to Kiren and speak to him in case you need some sort of like a path to liquidity or someone to buy out your business if you're tired of growing it. And in one of these categories that he cares about. And maybe in the next 12 months, how has COVID affected your business, or has it been more resilient because of it? Have you benefited from it? And how do you see as the world is opening up, how is that changing your view on how Una Brands is going to grow?
So COVID has given a much deserved tailwind to the e-commerce space in general, right? And we see that effect in terms of the brands we see on an everyday basis. Many of them have benefited from COVID. Many of them have been able to scale up quite significantly during COVID, and COVID has attracted many more new sellers who have become first-time sellers, and so we will actually see the lasting effects of this COVID wave of new sellers in the next few years, and more brands will come up in this region because of that. But also COVID has been challenging in certain aspects to build a startup in the middle of COVID. 90 people plus team now within a short period of time. That has been challenging, but we've been able to attract some great people, great talent in the company, working remotely. We've been able to do all these deals. So that's been challenging, but at the same time very rewarding to see it all work out. And a lot more that we are seeing now as well in terms of understanding sensitivity of brands to COVID related bumps and how to manage the growth post COVID. That's those kind of things that we are working on now, which is very cutting edge technology that we are developing.
It's amazing. Like, I think what most people may not realize is that first, like, COVID has pushed more people to buy online. So a much larger percentage of the universe is now familiar with making a transaction and purchasing online. At the same time, more sellers are coming online as well, driven by the same thing. So you have more experience setting up these online stores, which creates a lot more opportunity for people like Kiren and Una Brand. So if you're an investor out there looking for a great investment opportunity, I can't say anything better about Kiren and what he's building with Una, and highly recommend you go and have a conversation with him.
Thanks, Vishal, for those very kind words, and thanks for being great partners on this journey, and a lot more to do. We have a lot more announcements that will come up, and we will be talking about some of the brands that we've acquired in the next few weeks. Great stories, great sellers, each one with a unique story. Each one has built a great brand and is now enjoying the fruits of their labor of many years. And we are taking the brand to the next level now. So
amazing.
very
There's a
exciting.
15-year-old millionaire on a yacht somewhere, thanks to a brand. So
No, he's not on a yacht right now. He's studying hard for his.
Oh, he's still in school. He's still in school. Okay, that's good. That's good. Well done. Well done. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I hope you found this informative and enjoyable.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Vishal. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Wild Digital.